Hello, I'm Ben and welcome to my channel Hickam's Dictum. Today on Hickam's Dictum and as part of my financial literary series, we'll be discussing budgeting. Just like in physical exercise, you have, swimming, weightlifting, running, and these are all exercises that help you get into physical shape. Budgeting is a practice that helps you get into financial shape, okay? This is a very important practice that a lot of businesses and individuals struggle with. So I hope this video sparks your interest, okay? So without further ado, let's get right into the discussion. So what is a budget? A budget is an estimation of revenue and expenses over a specified future period, and it is usually compiled and reevaluated on a periodic basis. In essence, budgets are financial planning tools that can help you plan for the future and learn from the past. Budgets can be made for an individual, a government, a business, or just about anything or any entity that makes and spends money. The activity of preparing a budget is called budgeting, and it's in essence balancing your revenue with the expenses while accounting for your needs and your wants. Budgeting is meant to be done on a consistent and periodic basis. If you think about it with fitness, if you're trying to get in shape, you have to be consistent and do it regularly. That's the only way you're going to see results. And budgeting, financial budgeting, works pretty much the same way. The only way you will get the best out of your finances is if you consistently and periodically look at your revenues and expenses, evaluate your cash flows, and set goals so your money works in your best interests. So why is budgeting important? Well, for starters, it keeps you focused on your financial goals. Budgeting promotes accountability. Budgeting promotes transparency. Budgeting reveals your spending tendencies. Budgeting promotes financial discipline. Budgeting helps keep your finances under control. Budgeting provides cushioning for life's unexpected curveballs. Budgeting helps guide business decisions. And ultimately, budgeting gives you control over your money. So what are the different types of budgets? Earlier on in this discussion, I gave the analogy of budgeting to physical exercise. And I said that just as there are different forms of physical exercise, swimming, basketball, running, weightlifting as examples, in the same fashion, there are different types of budgeting methods. One type of budgeting is called line item budgeting. Line item budgeting is typically only focused on expenses and groups expenses by categories. It basically shows each expense category as a line item with an assigned cap or budget. And the idea is each period to track your spending in each of these categories so you do not exceed your assigned caps. Another type of budgeting is called proportional budgeting. Proportional budgeting is split up by needs, wants, and savings. Most people who use this type of budgeting use the 50-30-20 rule, where 50% of the budget is assigned to needs, 30% assigned to wants, and 20% assigned to your savings. Another type of budgeting method is called envelope budgeting, which literally requires the use of envelopes. The idea with envelope budgeting is that each envelope represents an expense category. So you can have an envelope for your groceries, another envelope for your utilities, another envelope for miscellaneous spending, and so on. And at the beginning of each month, you put cash in your envelopes, and for each spending period, you only spend what's in the envelopes that you have agreed upon and nothing more. In other words, with envelope budgeting, you do not spend from credit or debit cards, only from what you put in your envelopes at the start of every spending period. Another type of budgeting method is called zero-sum budgeting. And this budgeting method requires you to spend every dollar you earn on paper. So at the end of every month, your checking account balance or whatever account you're using should be at zero. So you start every new month at a clean slate. With zero-sum budgeting, you treat every item as a bill or an expense, including the amounts you have allotted for your savings and investments. With zero-sum budgeting, you set firm guardrails at the beginning of every month, and you make sure during the course of the month that you do not exceed these caps or these guardrails that you've set for your budget. Zero-sum budgeting requires you to check your accounts multiple times a month to make sure you're sticking to the plans you've set. If you run a business, there are also budgeting methods like activity-based budgeting, which is essentially only budgeting for the activities that will enable your business to hit specific revenue goals. There is also value proposition budgeting, where every line item in the budget has to generate value for your business or for you if it's for personal reasons. And there are other budgeting methods that take things like inflation and market trends into account. Let's talk about the components of a budget. While budgets may vary in complexity, all budgets have a set of elements that are standard across the board. These include elements like historical revenue and estimated revenue, which is the revenue from your goods and services. These also include capital contributions, which will be items like donations, personal deposits, and so on. These include historical and estimated fixed costs, which are expenses or liabilities that do not change. If you are a business, fixed costs will be things like the cost of your building utilities or employee salaries. And if you're budgeting for personal reasons, fixed costs will be things like the price of your rent or your mortgage. We also have historical and estimated variable costs. These are costs that fluctuate based on changes in your business or personal setup. So an example of a variable cost if you are a business is if you have to increase the amount you spend on marketing based on seasonality, which can change season to season. Another example of a variable cost if you're a business is how much you spend on raw materials to create products if there's an increase in demand for your products or your services. On a personal front, an example of a variable cost will be investments you make in yourself for things like self-improvement courses and so on. Then we have flexible costs, and these are simply costs that you're not obligated to pay. So if you are a business, for example, throwing your annual holiday party will be an example of a flexible cost. On the personal front, examples of flexible costs will be things like going out to eat, going to the movies, things of that nature. When you make a budget, all your expenses should be recorded as debits, and all your revenues and capital contributions and so on should be recorded as credits. Now let's talk about making a budget. The hardest part about making a budget is actually doing it periodically and consistently, but the actual act of making the budget itself is pretty straightforward. You will need to align on the appropriate budgeting method that works for you, your business, or your family. You will also need a clear view of all your cash flows. You will also need a platform to automate and manage your cash flows. Microsoft Excel allows you to create your own formulas to manipulate and see the views of your financial cash flows that generate the most value for you. Microsoft Excel gives you the ability to visualize your cash flows so you can see historical trends, current trends, the full picture. You can run pivot tables on your data, on your cash flows to summarize and see aggregated views of your data. And you can also plug in the data from Excel to other budgeting solutions. So I personally prefer to use Microsoft Excel for my personal budgeting needs, but there are tons of other budgeting solutions out there in the market. For example, PNC Bank has their virtual wallet money management tool. Bank of America has their mobile banking app. Citibank has their financial tools, and there are tons of free and paid budgeting apps that you can download to make the best sense of your cash flows and your money situation and I'll put links to some of these solutions in the description below this video. In conclusion, budgeting is a great way to apply discipline and structure to your finances, and a great way to make your finances work for you. The great thing about budgeting is that anyone can do it, including you. You don't need a fancy degree, sophisticated education, or need to be super smart to budget your money. You just need to have the desire to get the most out of your finances and the discipline to stick to whichever budgeting system you decide works for you. And that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed this short video on budgeting. What are your thoughts? Do you practice budgeting in your personal life? Do you practice budgeting in your business, or do you have a budgeting function as part of your role in the company that you work for? Is there a method you use to budget your money that I did not mention in this video that you want to share? Please leave your thoughts and comments below so we all grow and learn from each other. Thank you for watching this entire video. I hope the insights I provide value for you and spark your interest in budgeting. And if you are a financial services professional and budgeting is a part of the advice you offer your clients, I would love to hear from you regarding some of the strategies and techniques that you think are best suited for budgeting and developing a budgeting lifestyle. Again, I'm Ben, this is Hickam's Dictum. If you haven't already, please subscribe. If you're on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. If you're on Facebook or Instagram, please like and follow the page. Again, I hope this video provided value for you. I am in your service, and I hope to hear from you. Take care, be blessed, and I'll see you around. Take care, and cheers.